Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Gaming the System, the podcast where three intersectional feminists examine gaming and games through a feminist lens. Today, I'm your host, Alex, and I'm joined by Matt. Before we get started, if you want to support us, you can subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/gamingthesystem for some exclusive content. Or you can send us a one-off donation via PayPal to our email address wearegamingthesystem@gmail.com. We're back with some more gaming news of recent times. So I'm going to start kind of harking back to a story we talked about on a previous episode, and that's concerning the recent game Tales of Kenzera, Zao, which was created by the guy who is the voice of Bayek from Assassin's Creed, known as Abby on his Instagram, and I actually follow him on Instagram now. And I think it was about 2 weeks, maybe 1 week ago, he posted a big story where he was responding to a lot of backlash about the game from some really bigoted people, because how can it be a game for them if it features a black character and black stories and black narratives, and it's all woke and horrible, all this kind of bullshit that's like so pervasive on places like Twitter. And he basically responded to it by saying a lot of the things that we quite often say on the pod, which made me want to follow him 10 times more. He was saying gaming is for everybody, and that he believes that really there should be no barriers to gaming. And if you feel like a game isn't for you, then, that's okay, because it can exist as well in the gaming space. It doesn't have to be something that's marketed at you, is basically what he was saying, specifically for you to actually enjoy it. And to kind of hammer home the point, he rounded off his sort of feedback on everything that had been happening on Twitter by saying that he was going to reduce the price of the game on the Nintendo Switch down to the price of a pizza in America, which he said was something like, I think, $15, because he wanted to reduce the barriers to accessing the game. And in this case, obviously, he meant financial barriers. But I just thought it was amazing that he wanted to speak about it, that he's actually proactively doing something to make his game more accessible to everybody, and that he's speaking out against bigoted people in the gaming community. And I just thought it was lovely, and I wanted to share it as a follow-up to our previous episodes on the subject.
Yeah, and it seems like creators have a responsibility to use their platform and their fame to force forward progress and have conversations like that, because when the powers that be are in charge of all the forms of information and news, then that's when they're the people that provide the bedrock for all the hatred and bigotry, because they say, oh, everything's completely fine. I don't understand why everyone's all in a tizzy about things. Everything's fine. And then they get their extreme elements going, no, everything's not fine. Everything's fucked. And it's all women and gay people and trans people and And those two elements can often drown out the authentic and real stuff, which is stuff like this. Which is going, everyone calm the fuck down. Everyone calm down. Yes, there are bad things, but this is a game. This is a game. And you can either play it or you can not play it. And it's the level of hatred and bile that gets piled on is just, it's like a natural resource. If only you could harness it for power, because it's just a perpetual motion machine, really, of pointlessness.
But yeah, I really recommend checking out his Instagram. The handle is Abzi Salim. I'll spell it. It's ABZYSALIM. And he's put himself down as a storyteller / CEO and creative director of Surgent Studios, which is the gaming company that makes Tales of Kenzira Zhao. He also recently had a really long chat with, you'll forgive me for forgetting people's names, but basically the voice of Asterion from Baldur's Gate 3. And it looks like the type of thing that we at the podcast would really enjoy, and I think our listeners would probably really enjoy as well. So definitely recommend checking it out. And definitely one to follow for future cool gaming news, I think. So yeah, just pleased to hear that he's actually spoken out about it, and I think more people should. I agree, Matt.
Yeah, it's using your platform to build up others is
and not
it's
to
the
tear
only way.
down. Yeah. So often
'Cause
it's such a negative space online, isn't it? It's just become this us and them mentality, when really we should be looking to build people up and support them, even if we don't always agree.
And the creative process, as we know, doing this podcast for 3.5 years now, it's not easy building things. It's not easy creating things. And it's so frustrating for people to fail to recognize the actual work that goes into things, and how everything is painted as extremely black and white in their world, and that people are just doing things, and it's just another element of life that just feels like we don't have time for that. We don't have time for all of these people slowing us down. I've been thinking recently about how the artificial barriers that are created by the status quo and the people that support them.
Yeah.
Because in the past, a black man, a man of colour, wouldn't have had the resources, say 20 years ago, when there were no indie games, because it was all industry led things. It was always going to be a white man leading what it was, and that's not because there weren't any black men with stories. It's because they go, oh, we're going to put this artificial barrier in the way of black men so that white men can get up here. And you just look at those kind of barriers and you go, what a waste of time for everyone.
Yeah.
You're focusing on, you should be focusing on making these games, and you're focusing on stopping other people from making games. And you go, we don't have time for that. We've got problems to solve. We've got things to do. And you're wasting everyone's time doing that, and then expand that out to business and politics. You go, the world's on fire. We don't have time for this. We don't have time to worry about trans women. We don't have time to worry about gay people. We don't have time for all of this.
No.
There's so much work to be done.
Reminds me of the latest episode of Doctor Who. I don't know if you've been watching, Matt. Do you watch? Oh, it's good. Basically, the latest episode, Dot and Bubble, was all about the pitfalls of social media and the rich in society being above everybody else. And eventually it was revealed that the people the Doctor saves in the episode, bearing in mind the Doctor's being played by Cutie Gatwa, I think that's how you pronounce it, or is it Cutie? I don't know. Forgive me for not knowing. But I think apparently he didn't know how it was pronounced for like most of his life and only learned it like recently. But anyway, he's awesome. If you have seen him in Sex Education, you'll know what I mean. But so he's playing the Doctor, and by the end of the episode, saves all these horrible rich people who are not very grateful and quite callous people. And he's like, well, come with me and I can save your lives, because if you go out there, you're going to die. And in the end, they turn around and say, well, no, we can't travel with you. And then you realise you've been watching the whole episode, it's full of white people and there's no black people. And that's why they're so against travelling with him. And it was very cleverly written, and I will need to watch it again, because I'm ashamed to say I didn't pick up on it until that moment. But it just goes to show how conditioned we are in society to just accept what is quote unquote normal, whether it be ethnicity, sexuality, gender, ability versus disability. And it becomes normalised because you don't see the diversity of people, of everyone, the way that everyone is, in the human race. And that again just shows how it's all about the people who are in control of showing us the world and the ways in which we process the world aren't as diverse as they should be. Really.
Yeah, it's just it takes every single person, like Abu and Pedro Pascal, and it's Pride Month, so this is and it's only recently I've only seen it in the last two years or so, the pride flag with the trans colours on it, which it's been LGBT for fucking
ages.
ever.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's LGBT for a reason, that that's one of the first, like, it's not LGB plus, meaning like, oh, these are the only like valid ones. It was LGBT, and then it went on, it grew out from there. And for some reason, well, we know why, it's because of patriarchy needing women to turn their anger away from cis men to trans women, to go, they're the problem. This tiny little minority with no power in bathrooms, they're the problem. Don't look at men as a whole. That's doing like that. And so having every single time you see that pride flag with the trans colours in it, it's so important, because you go, it's like pronouns. You go, someone sees that you've put your pronouns on things, they go, oh, thank God I'm safe here. Because by putting your pronouns on something, you're going, I recognise that there are multiple genders and there's non-binary, and you can be however you want to be around us. And then every single symbol that is plastered everywhere is so important, because all we can do is say these things as loudly and as often as possible, because that's what our opponents are doing. And they've got all the weight of institutions behind them, and all we have is numbers and enthusiasm. And so whenever someone like Abu does this, it's a revolutionary thing enough making a game. I have this, like, there are bad books, okay? There are billions of books, and there are countless books, countless authors, and the amount is growing exponentially every day. But if I think that if you've finished writing a book, you're a good writer, because creating something and finishing it is a Herculean task, and then releasing it is another thing. So just the act of, he doesn't get to just be a game designer, which is unfair. He seems to recognize that it's his responsibility to be a game designer and be an advocate for diversity in gaming and a more progressive world, which sucks that people have to do that. And that's where the artificial barriers come in. It's going, you're forcing people to take on a second job to deal with the arbitrary bullshit that is in their way.
Exactly that. Yes. Mm-hmm.
But that's a good news story.
It is, yes, and I was glad to bring it to the pod, for sure. As soon as I saw it, I was like, right, I'm talking about that. So, what is your news to bring to the pod, Matt?
So, have you heard of Harrison Butker?
No, I haven't.
So he's the Kansas City Chiefs, which is my football team. So basically, every team has a kicker who kicks. When they score a touchdown, there's a free kick for an extra point.
Okay.
And every team has one kicker. And Harrison Butker is the kicker for the Chiefs. And it's a very unusual position because it's literally like bringing in a golfer. And so they don't necessarily have, they're not part of the team as normal. And he was asked to do the commencement speech for the college that he attended to, which was a Catholic college. So he came in and gave a 20-minute speech. And it's been a little bit controversial. And so what I'd like to do is I've taken out some of the choice aspects of the speech, and I'm just going to go through them.
Okay.
So just jump in, interrupt me, go, what the fuck, at any point as I go through this, and we'll see. Okie dokie. As a group, we've witnessed firsthand how bad leaders who don't stay in their lane can have a negative impact on society. It's through this lens I want to take stock of how we got to where we are and where we want to go as citizens, and yes, as Catholics. Bad policies and poor leadership have negatively impacted major life issues. Things like, bear in mind, this is this is a commencement speech to people who are graduating from college. Things like abortion, IVF, surrogacy, euthanasia, as well as growing support for degenerate cultural values and media, all stem with the pervasiveness of this disorder. Our own nation is led by a man who publicly and proudly proclaims the Catholic faith, but at the same time is delusional enough to make the sign of the cross during a pro-abortion rally. He has been so vocal in his support for the murder of innocent babies that I'm sure to many people it appears that you can be both Catholic and pro-choice.
Okay.
So that's how he starts.
Right. Yeah. So basically just having a good old rant then, in place of an inspirational speech. Yeah.
Yes. And okay. So this bit won't shock you. I've over the past few years I've gained quite the reputation for speaking my mind. I never envisioned myself nor wanted to have this sort of platform. But God has given it to me.
Oh, of course, it's not my fault. It's God's fault. Yeah.
No, it wasn't that there are humans having a thing and going, oh yeah, he's a famous person who might come and speak with us. It wasn't just, it's people. Fuck people. I'm gonna speak at appropriate moments in my proselytizing, preaching tone of voice.
Okay.
But God has given it to me, so I have no other choice but to embrace it and preach more hard truths about accepting your lane and staying in it, Alex.
Oh, I love lanes.
Okay. Okay. Our Catholic faith has always been countercultural. Our Lord, along with countless followers, are all put to death for their adherence to his teachings. The world around us says that we should keep our beliefs to ourselves whenever they go against the tyranny of... Now, what tyrannical forces are there in the world at the moment that you can think of?
What forces? Sorry, Matt.
Forces of tyranny.
Oh,
what tyrannical forces?
Basically, anyone using power to kill other people, to kind of for power and monetary gain, for control. That's very broad strokes, but basically that.
Yeah. Governments, corruption, war.
Yeah.
Famine. Everything. But to him, the biggest... diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's a threat to everybody, sure.
It's tyranny.
It's tyranny.
Tragically, so many priests revolve much of their happiness from the adulation they receive from their parishioners. This undue familiarity will prove to be problematic every time because, as my teammate's girlfriend says, familiarity breeds contempt. Now, I think that is something that Taylor Swift has said.
Yeah.
Because it's Travis Kelce, who is his teammate, that is dating Taylor Swift. So presumably that's his idea of a joke, calling Taylor Swift her teammate's girlfriend. Because she's a billionaire.
Yeah.
She probably has more money than 90%
Yeah.
of the Chiefs team combined. Okie dokie. I am certain the reporters at the Associated Press could not have imagined that their attempt to rebuke and embarrass places and people like those here wouldn't have been met with anger but with interest. Oh, okay. I haven't. So originally we planned to do this a few weeks ago, so I've forgotten a lot of stuff that's in this speech. They thought those ideas wouldn't have been met with anger, but instead met with excitement and pride. Not the deadly sin sort of pride that has an entire month dedicated to it. Happy Pride Month, by the way. But the true God-centered pride that is cooperating with the Holy Ghost to glorify Him.
Okay. So yeah, he's just going on a weird tangential rant about how religion is great and everyone else is sinful and needs to die, basically. And that they don't deserve anything nice because they're sinful. Yes. Again, broad strokes, but yeah.
It's such a wild thing that I talked about briefly in one of our recent episodes. I can't remember which one. But no one is more confident and ride or die than people like this.
Yeah, I know.
And the wrong kind of people.
Yeah.
Because I'm motivated and I care about things, but I don't have I couldn't stand up. So when we do our live show, I couldn't stand up and say confidently things that I believe in this way, in going, this is the only way. This is it. There's no other way. And it's just wild that people indoctrinated into places, they are so completely confident in what they're doing.
Yeah.
And it's just, again, it's like a natural resource. Why can't we, if we could harness this power for good? But the problem is, once you're indoctrinated to something, it's almost impossible to unbrainwash someone.
Yeah.
And
it's just really, I just find, I mean, I might have talked about it previously on the pod, but I find religion, particular aspects of Christian religion, to be incredibly hypocritical. When you think about like the kind of message it's trying to give out, like on one side, and then on the other side it's like, but actually you can't be any of these things because that's sinful, and you need to be fixed because you're broken. It's not a very kind ethos, is it really?
And it's
all very performative, and it's really just hateful, a lot of it, or at least that's my experience. But again, I'm not saying that everyone who is religious is wrong or hateful, but some of its principles are, like you say, indoctrinating people to view the world in this very closed-minded way, and I don't think it's good. I could phrase it in a lot more of an eloquent way, but those are my general thoughts.
Yeah, it's another thing that we don't have time for it.
No,
we've got so many problems.
Yeah.
And this way of thinking solves nothing. It's one of those things that literally only creates problems.
It's just used as not an excuse. It is just used basically to say, well, I think this because God says it. But really, all they're just doing is saying, I don't like these people, and religion is the reason why. But actually, they're just not sitting down and examining, if religion was taken away, why do you feel like this about this person? And all they need to do is sit down and think about it a bit more from the other person's perspective. Everyone should read To Kill a Mockingbird. Frankly, have you ever read it, Matt?
I think I'm mixing that up with Mississippi Burning. Not To Kill a Mockingbird.
Yeah, well, both we watched both in English during school. Actually, I think we watched Mississippi Burning. That was quite traumatic. If it is the one I'm thinking of, but To Kill a Mockingbird, I recommend everyone should watch the film with Gregory Peck or read the book, because it's very good and it teaches you about viewing things from other people's perspectives, and not just about racism either, from all sorts of different angles. But yeah, we're going really off topic today, but
it's good.
It's good. It is nice.
Rolling with it.
Yeah.
Rolling with it. So he doesn't do himself any favours. So if Harrison Butker were to listen to what you just said, and then this is what I imagine he would have said. In the complete surrender, in the complete. So I want you to imagine you've graduated from university.
Yes.
You're sat.
With
which university did you go to?
Was it what?
Was it Swansea?
Swansea, yes, Swansea University.
So you're sat in the hallway. You got given your thing, and the man on the stage says this: "In the complete surrender of self and its turning towards Christ, you will find happiness. For the ladies present today, congratulations on an amazing accomplishment. You should be proud of all that you have achieved to this point in your young lives. I want to speak directly to you briefly, because I think it is you, the women who have had the most diabolical lies told to you how many of you are sitting here now about how to cross this stage and are thinking about all the promotions and titles you're going to get. Some of you may go on to lead successful careers in the world, but I would venture to guess that the majority of you are most excited about
motherhood, marriage.
Bingo.
Yeah.
You just got them the wrong way around.
Yeah.
About your marriage and the children.
Yes.
Yeah. The
M&Ms.
Most excited about the marriage and the children we'll bring into this world.
Yes. The far less fun M&Ms of life. Yeah. I'd probably boo him. I'd just be like, boo.
Yeah. Fuck you.
Yeah.
Did you know how much my student loan was? Children are free.
Yeah.
Marriage is free.
I'd just be like, I hate children. Because I'm not keen on children. But no, they're all right, really. But yeah. That must have been pretty awful for everyone. And really awkward. And just awful. I mean, I'm thinking about my MA now. We had a pretty, I don't want to say bigoted, but yeah, person of a certain background who was old and white and rich and made a lot of sexist jokes during the speech before we all got up to get our MA certificates. Bearing in mind that most of the people who attended that college were women as well. But he was made to leave the trustees pretty soon after, and it was apparently not a uncommon thing that he would make those kinds of comments on the regular. But it's very, very institutionalised into that kind of organisation, because it is essentially the college where I studied used to be an old sort of stately home / like sort of landed, not landed gentry, but an estate. So it's typical of those sorts of people that they would be of a certain class with a certain viewpoint about people and life, and so it just reminded me of that now, actually, when you think about it. The one in Swansea was mainly just people speaking a lot of Welsh and singing the Welsh national anthem, which I didn't feel like I should be standing up for, because it's not my national anthem. But that's the whole other kettle of fish, and I enjoyed the love-hate relationship that I have with the Welsh. But yeah, fun times indeed.
I think the problem comes to, because you can, there are always going to be people like that.
Yeah.
And the problem is when they have power.
Yeah.
When someone like that has power, I think often about Mock the Week, that has gone for 20 years as the biggest comedy show ever. 7 seats, 1 host, 5 of them. Host was obviously a man, and then 5 men. 5 of the seats were men, and 1 for were women, and that's the way it was for 20 years. And that wasn't because there weren't enough women comedians. There weren't enough good women comedians. It was because the showrunner didn't think women were funny.
Yeah.
And so that moron having power in that position created those barriers for no reason. But when I'll get to the end, when we get to this, why this is a good thing. So why things are going in a better direction.
Yeah.
Okay. Carrying on that vein of, so you're looking forward most to children and marriage.
Children and marriage, yes.
And I can tell you that my beautiful wife Isabel would be the first to say that her life truly started when she began living her vocation as a wife and a mother.
Oh,
Jesus Christ!
Oh, it's so cliche. Yeah.
It's just when people just repeating talking points like woke. You sit there just looking, going, what's underneath that?
Yeah. And I mean, for some women, that's fine. If they feel like that, then that's okay. But it's not like that for all women. He's implying that it should be, and that's the only way for them to be. Well, yeah, he did mention careers, but that was like a
pat on the head.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we really know.
Exactly.
What you really care.
Yeah, but really you'll want children, won't you? Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just what we need. We need a global rule, like at school. You have to use your own words. No plagiarism. Describe what you don't like about gay people without using any of the words that you've used, that you've heard, but without repeating anything.
Yeah.
Because say why you hate diversity without using the word woke.
Yeah.
When people who aren't white men are in things. Okay.
Well, how do you feel about that now?
Next, how do you feel about that? Without using the word, and then that's the starting point. But then we don't have time to have that conversation with everyone. And okay, right, continue with this. This has a happy ending.
I'm sure.
I'm on this stage today and able to be the man I am because I have a wife who leans into her vocation. I'm beyond blessed with the many talents God has given me. He's got a good foot.
A good foot.
That's his. And he's one of the best in the league. But saying the problem with people who say the Lord and God in every other sentence, I hate them the most, because it's not about God, it's about narcissism. It's me and God have this personal relationship.
Holier than thou, isn't it?
Holier than thou. Yeah. All of my success is made possible because a girl I met in band class back in middle school would convert to the faith. I bet she rolls her eyes a lot. I bet she said that vocation thing sarcastically, and maybe he just didn't get it. Would become my wife and embrace one of the most important titles of all, homemaker.
Oh my God! Shoot me now.
Yeah.
Oh,
Jesus Christ!
It makes me so uncomfortable.
And you just sit there going,
oh my God!
Isabella's dream of having a career might not have come true, but if you ask her today if she has any regrets on her decision, she would laugh out loud without hesitation and say, heck no.
Would she though? She's not on stage.
She'd probably go,
Yeah.
Ugh.
I expect some. Well, I'm probably reading too much into it there, but I mean the money probably helps. Again, being purely incredibly judgmental, but I suspect they must make a lot of money.
Well, that's part of the good news.
Yeah.
So this is the last bit. So this is to me. To the gentleman here today, part of what plagues our society is this lie that you've been told that men are not necessary in the home or in our communities. Has anyone told men that you're not necessary anywhere?
No.
Nope. As men, we set the tone of the culture, and when that is absent, disorder, dysfunction, and chaos. In this absence of men in the home is what plays a large role in violence. That's not a straight line. It's disorder, dysfunction, and chaos without men in charge. That's one of the wildest things I've ever heard.
Yeah.
And unapologetic in your masculinity, fighting against the cultural emasculation of men. And then then the last bit is just about how much he likes something called traditional Latin mass, which I just don't care. Who cares?
Okay.
Enjoy what you like.
Cool story, bro. Yeah.
And just every part of that we paused at, I wanted someone. He should have done this in an interview.
Yeah.
He should do an interview where someone sits across from him and says, "Okay, you said this. What do you mean by this? Don't say anything don't repeat anything you said in this. Say why there's going to be disorder you say if men aren't present, then there's disorder, dysfunction. What does that mean? It means when women are in charge that everything falls to shit. Say that.
Yeah.
And then we can deal with that. So, right. We'll bring this to a close.
Yeah.
With the fact that Harrison Butker is one of the best kickers in the league on the Kansas City Chiefs. He makes $5 million a year, which is good money.
Yeah.
But the quarterback of the Chiefs, the most important player on each team, he did at the similar time of this. He did a speech saying that women's sport is awesome. We need to invest in it more. It's not that it's only just gotten awesome. And him and his wife are co-owners in, I think it's a women's NBA team. So he comes up and just says, yeah, women are awesome. Women's sports are awesome. We're supporting them. That's great. And he makes $50 million a year.
Yeah.
So that's so encouraging.
Yeah.
That
is encouraging. You
go, he's one of the best kickers in the league, but we've got Patrick Mahomes, so it's a happy story. And then in response, a ton of the people from the college were just like, yeah, that doesn't represent us at all. Just ignore him.
Yeah,
it was a mistake doing that. Yeah. Any final thoughts?
Probably should have a more secure vetting process for speech makers at that college, I think. Give them auditions and see how they go. I'd probably watch that. I mean, if it was as hilarious as this one would be like, college speech auditions. It's my new reality TV program. How exciting. Coming soon to a podcast near.
Cool. Shall we bring it to a close then?
Let's. Thank you, Matt. And we have been talking about gaming news, and we'll be back again with another episode every Thursday. As Matt has mentioned, our live show's coming up. That's on the 15th of June, not long to go in Chichester, in West Sussex in the south of England for the Chichester Fringe. If you're local to the area, or if you're not and you really would like to come and see us live, do come along, and you can look up tickets on the Chichester Fringe website. And we look forward to seeing you there. Thanks very much, and we'll see you again soon. Bye.
Bye.